So in the last couple of months we've had some pretty decent weather. It's been quite warm, which has made it warm inside your pub sheds or wherever you keep your perfect draft machines. This has led to a few people having problems with their machine cooling down. It could be down to the fact there's dust on the heatsink and fan, so it's only about a 5 or 10 minute job to remove the back of the machine and clean out your heatsink and fan. And that's what we're going to look at today, which should help the machine get down to 3 degrees and keep at 3 degrees a lot easier. So before we start, we need to make sure we've got everything ready, all the tools we need to use. So we've got a magnetic tray just to hold the screws with, a variety of small screwdrivers, all Phillips head, a brush just to wipe the heatsink with and the fan, small torch so we can see what we're doing, a hoover to give us a bit of a hand clean in between the fan and also the blade to the heatsink. And most importantly, as we all know, once you've fixed something, you need to make sure it's working properly. So a nice glass to try a cold beer once we've finished. So the first thing we've done is we've removed the Perfectdraft from any small shelf it's on, unplugged it, make sure it's not switched on anymore, and we're going to take out the keg that's in it so we can actually access inside. I'm also going to take off anything that might get in the way, such as any magnets. So lifting up the 2 blue tabs, remove the keg, pop it somewhere safe. We'll be putting it back in shortly. And to access the heatsink and fan, we need to take out a screw here, one here, one down here, and one down here. So you see the screwdriver is ideal. It's got a long shaft on it, and we'll just start taking them off. So it's a good idea when you've got the machine open like this, just to give the chiller plate a little wipe and try and wipe any condensation from inside the condensation drain channel. Just a little bit of good housekeeping. Okay, so start taking these screws off. All the screws do is to hold this top panel into place. It's just a cover. So it's important the screws come all the way out. You might not actually get them out the hole, but you can feel when they're completely out. They're self-tapping screws, so they might be a bit tight to start off with if they've never been removed. This machine's about 3 years old, so these screws have been in for 3 years. Down the bottom here for the third one. And the final one is through here. So once we've got all the 4 screws out, we can just turn the machine around. Now, the back should just lift off like that, which will show us the inside of the machine. So the cooling fan here draws air through the heatsink that the cooling part's on the opposite side of. So before we remove the cooling fan, just pull out this little wire here, the power supply for the cooling fan, and then there's 4 screws that need to be removed. Here, here, down the bottom, and down the bottom there. Okay, so we just need to undo these 4 screws now. You might find if the machine's moving away from you while you're pushing against the screw, it might be an idea just to pop the keg back in, just to give a little bit of extra weight. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4 screws out. So this heatsink fan should just pop off. There's a tiny wee bit left still in this. There we go. So there's the fan and the heatsink. So I cleaned mine out last week, so it shouldn't be too dirty. It was quite stewy. I'll put a photo up at the end, but just a rub of the brush on the heatsink. Or a bit of a go with the hoover. And exactly the same, just with the fan itself. And putting it back together is just the reverse process. And there we go. Then finally, just plug the power for the fan back in. Make sure it goes on the guide correctly. Then it's just a case of putting the lid on. So the lid just goes all the way as far as you can forwards, over the clips at the end. So when we're putting the cover back on the back, we just need to make sure that these little lugs here get covered completely by both sides of the lid. See, that side's just not quite in. There we go. That's both sides in. And then it's just a case of screwing in all 4 screws. So very gently make sure you've got the screw in the hole. Sounds obvious, but because of self-tappers, it could cause you an issue to get it slightly out. And just continue to screw it up. Here's one. Now I found doing the same side helps, because if you do the bottom, it holds the bottom in place, and then if you do the top on the same side, it stops it from getting the cover from getting pushed back the way. Number 2. And number 4. Now, just time to put the keg back in. Pop the keg in, close the machine up, and plug it back in and give it a test. So the machine's now going to be showing a bit warmer than it was because we've had it switched off, and also that we've had fresh air getting to the chiller plate without the keg on it. Another thing that you might want to do is take a note of how many days remaining you had before you actually took the keg out, because now it's obviously set to 30, but most kegs don't last as long as that. Then just put anything you want back on, however you choose to decorate your Perfectdraft machine. And the important bit, testing that it's still working. So it was a bit frothy with the keg being pulled up and down a bit, shaken up. Give that a couple of seconds to cool down, calm down a bit. That's Spartan Oktoberfest. It's very, very smooth. It goes down a bit too well. Anyway, don't forget to leave any comments you like on the bottom of the YouTube page. If you're looking for any further tips and advice, pop on to facebook.com/perfectdraftkegtips. And have a good day.